Cowboys.
Come on, y'all! Get you some of that!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Star Roundup. I'm Rob Vale, this is Levi Bachelor, and we are with the Middle Tennessee Dallas Cowboys fan club, and welcome to the Super Bowl run.
That's right.
We are on a roll. The Dallas Cowboys just knocked off the Detroit Lions in what was for them a meaningless game, and we just saw a team that wanted to win.
That's right.
They wanted to win. They went out there and they did what they needed to do. 42-21. They doubled up the Lions, and quite the second half performance.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was a very entertaining game. The first half, the Detroit definitely showed up and played us hard. And their offense. Their offense is, like I said last week, that's what scared me, with Stafford back there slinging the ball and everything. But we are finally seeing this much maligned, no-name defensive line routinely now start getting some pressure. Randy Gregory played really well last night.
Yep.
I mean, he was, just like you called last week. His snaps were pretty limited. I think he was probably out there for about 20 or so snaps. But he was still effective while he was out there. And David Irving, goodness gracious, this guy is an absolute beast. Yep. And I have a feeling that he's going to turn up really big in the playoffs for us.
Well, he's coming on really strong at the right time. He's figured out where he needs to be, and I'm just tickled to death to see how he's developed. We saw, like you mentioned, the return of Randy Gregory. How long we're going to have him, who knows? He may be there throughout the playoffs. He may not be. But I will say this: he had some fresh legs yesterday. Mm-hmm. He had 2 tackles in the game. I think he had one quarterback pressure. He actually injured his oblique.
Ooh.
And he came out and then he came back in. He played through the injury, but nothing major. That's all well and good.
And he looked in terrific shape too. I mean, I know that he's had nothing but time to hit the weight room and get Wojcicked.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he looked in fantastic shape.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd have been disappointed if it was anything else.
Right.
Just because of the time that he's had to do all that. The first half was a little bit concerning on our defensive side. We made Zellner look like Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
I really don't know what that was all about. But a lot of that, I think, had to do with getting their legs underneath them, with a lot of guys out on the defensive line. I think we had 3 or 4 guys that were out that didn't play, and there was some mixing and matching and just kind of getting used to it. But I will say this, Sean Lee proved what kind of leader he is, because he took the reins and he chewed the defense,
the entire defense.
I think we can put the label great on them. Because at this point, they're 13-2.
Yep.
And
tying the franchise record.
Yeah, I mean, and if we've had great teams in the past, this certainly has to be among them. Yep. Just in terms of what they've done. When you look at a team like this, and they can come back from something like that first half from a defensive standpoint, and rally and shut out the team that was just going up and down the field on them in the first half. They shut them out. They truly are the orphans. Nobody gives them a lot of credit for anything. But boy, oh boy, they came up big.
Oh, absolutely. That as soon as it was actually the beginning of the third quarter, right after Detroit had tied it up at 21. Just like you said, Detroit up to this point had just marched up and down the field on that defense the entire game, and Sean Lee rallied all the troops and let them know what he thought about it, and then the defense proceeded to go out and force 3 straight 3-and-outs and then an interception on the next drive.
Yeah.
I mean, what more can you say? And that's literally how the rest of the game played out. I mean, Irving and Mayowa and that defensive line was giving Stafford fits back there. He was constantly running for his life. He could never get his feet settled in the pocket. They were constantly collapsing the pocket. If there's any critiquing that I can do about this defense, There were a couple of times, especially early in the game, that it looked like guys were way too excited almost, or maybe nerves or too excited or something, and just over pursuing and having tough time wrapping up with tackles and stuff. But I mean, other than that, man, even Carr. Brandon Carr had a terrific game last night.
Did.
He was fantastic last night.
When he stays on that left side of the offense, he does really well. He has his issues when he goes to the other side.
Yeah.
It is just some guys can only play well in one direction.
And it's a footwork thing. It's a feel thing.
Footwork, awareness, feel. Yeah, absolutely. As long as you keep them in the positions, which is what I think Marinelli's trying to do, keep them in the positions where they're comfortable and where they excel, then they'll be successful.
Yep.
Looking at this defense, I mean, Church had 7 tackles, 5 assists last night. Hitchens and Skandrick each had 4. But I want to go down to the sacks, and I want to give a shout out to all the guys that got sacks last night. Malik Collins got a sack.
Yep.
Irving got a sack and a half. Mayowa got a sack and a half. That's 4 sacks, but that's not counting on top of that the pressures.
Oh man, yeah.
The force outs, the hits on the quarterback. This defense played really well overall in that second half,
yes.
And it just gave me a great feel for what's to come going forward.
Well, I mean, you want to see gearing up for a Super Bowl run now. I mean, we are clearly the best team in the NFC. Yeah. It's Super Bowl or bust now, baby.
Yeah.
So on this Super Bowl run, that's what you want to see. You want to see the offense start to execute, which is what we got back on track last night. You want to see the defense playing well, and after Sean Lee rallied everybody, that's what we saw in that second half last night. So I mean, as a Cowboys fan, you've got to feel pretty good seeing the team that we saw last night, especially in the second half.
You can't say enough about what Marinelli's done.
Right.
And coming into this season with the suspensions, with the problems that they've had, with the question marks on defense, nobody thought we didn't think we'd be where we are right now. We figured we'd be able to score a lot.
Yep.
But then Romo got hurt. And then we thought, well, 4-12, here we come. The defense has done a great job, and kudos to them.
Yep.
Want to look at the offensive side of the ball, take a look at some stats, and then I've got something that's really interesting about that offensive performance last night. So last week I was concerned about only scoring 4 touchdowns in the last 10 quarters. They must have heard. Maybe they're watching.
They gotta be watching this video.
They have to be watching this show, and if they are, good.
We're here.
Good job. They came out, scored 6 touchdowns yesterday. And they couldn't be any more evenly distributed. 3 in the first and 3 in the second half. Looking at the stats themselves, Prescott was 15 for 20, had 5 incompletions, threw 3 touchdowns, had 212 yards. Just efficient quarterbacking. But he wasn't the most efficient passer last night.
That's right.
Des Bryant was 1 for 1 with a touchdown. So
there's a 158.3
yeah,
right there.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm sure the Cowboys have other teams calling to inquire about their backup quarterback situation. It's really not fair. I mean, you got Romo as your backup, and oh, by the way, here's Des throwing touchdowns.
That's right.
So it's an embarrassment of riches. Elliott had 80 yards rushing on 12 attempts. Had a long of 55. McFadden had 49 yards on 14 attempts. And Prescott added 35 yards himself. On the receiving side of it, Bryant had 4 for 70, 2 catches for touchdowns. Terrence Williams made 4 clutch catches.
Yes.
Just to keep drives going. I mean, he's coming up big. Jason Witten had 2. Of course, the one was on the receiving end of the Des throw. Beasley had 4, Butler had 1 for a touchdown.
On a gorgeous play that Dak checked into.
Butler on his catch, I mean, that was a pretty nice catch. I mean, he had to go up.
Leave his feet.
He had to go up, he had to get it, he had to concentrate. I mean, the professionals, they should be able to do that, but when you see them do that, and speaking of catches, oh my gosh, what about that Des
catch? Oh my goodness gracious.
If that
One arm with a guy draped on his back.
If that's not a candidate for catch of the year, there's just something wrong. There's just something wrong.
There is.
Just phenomenal. But Here's a really interesting thing about last night. That offensive line let Dak get hit
Right.
one time.
Once.
And that was a sack. But that was the only time he was in the pocket and behind the line of scrimmage, he got hit. I mean, one hit.
Those
I'm
guys
not
are
talking
monsters.
about, we're not talking about, he got the sack. But I'm not talking about, releasing it and getting popped around. He didn't get hit.
Right.
This offensive line, Doug Free drives me nuts sometimes. Just, penalty at the most inopportune times, stuff like that. Tyron has had a couple of them.
Yep.
But my gosh.
There is a reason that this is clearly the best offensive line in football.
Yeah, and the scary thing is that they are that good and they can get better.
Yeah.
If they don't make some of the mistakes, it's crazy. And I just thought that stat was phenomenal.
Yep.
And when you combine really, really good protection with a quarterback that is really understanding the game and not making mistakes, you get 42-21 wins.
Yep.
Okay, and so I thought it was a phenomenal job all the way around. Give a shout out to the special teams and Chris Jones. For laying the runner out.
The puntisher.
The puntisher. That's good. I like that one. That's good. The puntisher. Hey, that was just that.
What a hit.
He just said I'm going for it, and he might not ever do it again. But it was awesome. And at our watch parties, if you were there, or if you haven't, you should have been. Or if you weren't there, you should have been. From a punter making a tackle, the place erupted.
Oh yeah.
It was crazy. So,
and they showed a replay of the sideline,
Yeah.
all the coaches and all the guys standing there, and all of them were going, ooh.
I know. and tomorrow in the game in the film room when they're looking at special teams. He's gonna
just get up and walk out.
Yeah, he's just gonna. They'll carry him out on his shoulders. So great job by him. Yeah. So on the year, Zeke has 1,631 yards rushing.
Goodness
He
gracious.
leads Le'Veon Bell now is in second place by 363 yards. I don't think he's going to catch him. Okay.
I think it's pretty safe.
I think Zeke is the rushing king for the 2016 season.
Yep.
The one interesting thing about Zeke last night was that he had 80 yards, and 55 yards of that was on one play.
Yep.
He had 25 yards the rest of the game. So he averaged 6.7 yards for the game, but if you took that 55-yard run out, he only averaged 2.3 yards a carry. So you look at that, and we talk about the offensive line and all that stuff. Now let me just say this. They took him out in the fourth quarter.
Right.
He only played 3 quarters. No question in my mind, had he stayed in, he would have been well over 100 yards.
Well, not only that, but Detroit, at least every first down was stacking 8 or 9 guys in the box, and that's how Zeke broke that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's how he broke that big run, is because you get through that first line of guys, and there's nobody out there.
And once Zeke got through, it was over. And for that many guys to block that many guys, again, go back to the offensive line, but it's phenomenal. So, but I firmly believe that had he been playing the entire 4 quarters, he would have, and I think he would have played more had Tyron Smith not gotten hurt.
Right.
And just an update on him, it's a little bit of a knee issue, not a big deal. If the game meant anything this week, he would play. He's not going to play this week, so he's now going to rest until the playoffs. Zeke needs 177 more yards to break the rookie rushing record. There's very little chance of that because I do not think he's going to play that much in the Philadelphia game. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. I would love to see him go over 1,700 yards for the season. That would be a nice little milestone for him.
Yep.
And just kind of put this thing even a little bit further out of reach.
Yeah.
But it's already out of reach. But I'm greedy that way, so whatever. But Your thoughts on the overall on the game itself, just on coaching, on the performances?
I have made a routine of on a weekly basis giving Scott Linehan quite a bit of hate, and the beginning of last night's game was kind of like that. The first series that we had, there were several play calls that we wound up scoring, but you still, there was still a couple of play calls you sit and scratch your head about. But when your offense goes out there and executes the plays that you call the way that they should, you look like a genius.
Right.
When you go out and shoot yourself in the foot with stupid penalties and false starts and holds and stuff, you look like a goat, even though it could have been the perfect play call. I think we saw Linehan get comfortable last night. It looked like he really got into a groove. And I will tell you one other thing. We saw Dak come out of his shell a little bit because he was routinely picking them apart down the field.
Well, I think you're seeing the result of what we talked about as the season unfolded. If you've been following these videos, the thing that we have been talking about is how much of the playbook is available to Dak.
Right.
And now I think if he doesn't have the entire playbook right now, he's probably got 98% of it.
Oh yeah, last night it was pretty clear they've really opened it up last night.
Yeah, and I think I think you've opened the playbook up when you fake a pitch to Zeke and then you pitch it to Dez, and on an option, by the way, where he can either run it or throw it, and then he throws it to Witten in the end zone,
wide open.
I think the playbook's pretty much open up to the offense.
Yeah.
But with all that said, I tend to agree with you on the Linehan thing, that he's gotten into a groove. It's very much like that with coaches. Just like players.
Yep.
They got to feel the game. They got to feel the flow of it and see how and of course a lot of it has to do with reading the defenses and reacting to it. So yeah, great game overall. I think we are primed now.
Yes.
For our Super Bowl run.
That's exactly right.
And pretty excited about it. So when we come back, we are going to preview the Eagles game that we have coming up, and we're going to talk about a few other things. So. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second.
Well, up in the north, the way out west, even in the east, they know that we're the best in the land of the star. We're living the dream. Texas proud. We're America's team. We're the Cowboys. Stomp!
Love them Dallas Cowboys.
Stomp! Come on, everybody, out of your seat. Stand up now and stomp your feet. Let's raise the roof. Make a little noise. Here come the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, we are back, and thanks for staying with us, and hope you like the little music we've got going there. I want to give a shout out to Cowboy Troy and Trick Pony for putting together the Cowboy Stomp video.
That's right.
in music. I love that song. So if that doesn't get your blood going, nothing does.
Nothing will.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming game with the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of what this game means. There's no way to make it exciting. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything to us. Doesn't mean anything to
Just
Philadelphia.
a rivalry game.
And doesn't mean anything to anybody else except for the bad blood.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
And so the difference, I think, this year with this game, if we were not in the playoffs and they weren't in the playoffs, I think this thing would be an all-out bloodbath and a war.
Yeah. Yes.
If we were both already clinched in the playoffs and really nothing on the line, it might still be a bloodbath of a war. But the way it is right now, the Eagles really need to. They're probably playing for a draft pick, and we are preparing for a Super Bowl run.
That's right.
Which really is the way I like it.
That's right.
But with that being said, I think what we're going to be looking at just in terms of this game is I think we're looking to tune up a little bit for the playoffs. Maybe get some. Just go through this week as a regular week, preparing, getting the guys into, keeping them in their regular groove, keeping their minds on the game. So I think you'll see the starters for the most part in the first, almost the entire first half, if not the entire first half. Maybe see them get a series in the first opening second half,
Right.
and then that's going to be it. It's almost be like that third preseason game of the years when the dress rehearsal kind of thing.
Do we see Tony Romo?
No.
Still don't see Tony Romo this week?
No, as a matter of fact, I think you're going to see Mark Sanchez active, because he hasn't been active for a couple weeks, and I think you're going to see Alfred Morris active because you haven't seen him active for a couple weeks.
Right.
And so when you pull Dak and you pull Zeke, you're still going to see McFadden,
Yep.
but I bet you're going to see a whole bunch of Dunbar and a whole bunch of Morris, and Sanchez is going to be under center. It just doesn't make sense. And frankly, you asked about Romo, putting him out there. First of all, I didn't want to see him out there this last week. Tony Romo's meant so much to this franchise. It just would be a slap in the face to put him out there, make him a garbage time quarterback.
Right.
You don't do that. He's not that guy. And so I didn't want to see him out there for that reason. Also, Tyron Smith was not out there protecting his blind side, so I didn't want to see that.
Why risk it at all?
Yeah, and if Romo is in there this week, it'd be kind of the same thing. He's going to be ready for the playoffs. If something happens to Dak, he'll be ready. He'll step in. He may have a little bit of rust or whatever, but I think he'll control that. He'll be all right.
Not only that, but if something were to happen in the playoffs, the Raiders right now were looking like one of, if not the best team in the AFC.
Right.
And now Derek Carr has broken his leg.
Yeah.
Name me their backup. McGloin?
Yeah.
Isn't that who it is?
Yeah, McCloin. Matt McCloin from Penn State.
McGloin, Tony Romo.
Oh yeah, no. there's no
you've
question.
got to feel good going into the playoffs, knowing the kind of depth that we have to be able to run this team.
Well, like I said in the previous segment, I was kind of half joking when I talked about Dez throwing the touchdown, and it's an embarrassment of riches about our quarterbacks.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, think about it. We've got our primary backup quarterback is a Pro Bowler.
Yep.
A championship caliber quarterback. One of the frankly, statistically speaking, the best quarterback in Cowboys history.
Yep.
And then behind him, you got a former first-round pick.
Yep.
So he's got some talent in terms of Sanchez. So it's just it's not doom and gloom, but again, you don't want to risk that. You have it for a reason.
Yep.
So that's why I say I think you'll see Sanchez, rather than Romo.
Right.
But in terms of the game itself, I don't know how exciting it's going to be. I would be very cautious about how I played Dak. Is the only not Dak but Zeke. I'd be very cautious about how I play Zeke in this game, because if I know one thing about the Eagles, they're going to want to try to make a name for themselves. Somebody out there is going to try to make themselves famous.
Yep.
Okay, and I would just watch how you use him.
Yeah.
I
totally agree.
And frankly, if it were me, I would get Zeke out there for a couple series and get him out.
Yep.
This is my opinion. It's going to be the leading rusher in the NFL. He's not within shot of getting the record, the rushing record, rookie rushing record, I should say. So let's not roll the dice and screw that up.
I totally agree.
And so we're going to look at something else here in just a few minutes. We're going to look at the playoff picture overall, but we'll finish up with the Eagles preview. I'm taking just because I'm not picking against them.
Right.
I'm taking the Cowboys 17-10.
I had originally put 28-10, but given that's going to be Sanchez out there running the offense, I might spot him 3 touchdowns. So we'll say 21-10 Dallas.
Okay, good deal. So, are you really watching anybody in particular?
I'd like to see Brandon Carr again. I'd like to see him go out and replicate the same kind of success that he had. Because I was really impressed. I've been down on him a lot this year, and I've seen him get beat, and I've seen him just be totally out of position. But last night was probably the best game I've ever seen Brandon Carr play, and just with the way that, as physical as he was up on the line, and even when he did drift off pre-snap. He never got beat. He was always aware of where his guy was. So he played really well. My biggest question about this game is, if Philly, just like you were saying, if Philly's playing spoiler, look at they came out and were ready to play against New York.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There is nothing left for them to try and spoil for the Cowboys. So in my mind, does Philly even show up? To me, that's the real question.
Oh, I think they show up. I think they show up and they try to do some damage. I don't think they give really two rips about whether they win or lose. They might even want to. The franchise itself might want to lose the game to improve their draft position.
Right.
But there's and we talk about we see these players before the game and after the game all hugging each other and talking and high-fiving and fist bumping and all this kind of stuff, and they're all buddy-buddy. But I will tell you this, that the hate is real between the NFC East rivals.
Oh, yes.
The Cowboys against the Eagles and the Redskins and the Giants, the hate is real, and especially along those trenches.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, like I said, I would be just very much concerned about them looking to do some kind of damage to our Super Bowl run.
Right.
I wish it wasn't like that in terms of what the thought process would be, but I don't trust them. I don't like them. Never have, never will, and I don't care.
Yep.
And that's the way I would view them. For me, the player to watch, I think, for me, is I want to see how Emmett Cleary does out there at left tackle in place of Tyrannosaurus Smith.
That's right.
I just I don't know. Haven't seen a lot from him. The Giants let him go because he wasn't that good there. He didn't look bad. I thought he played pretty well last night on Monday night when he came in for Tyron.
Yep.
There wasn't. I didn't see any holds, any penalties. I didn't see him miss any blocks. He knew his assignment, so who knows? Whatever. But
we'll see.
But that's who I'm going to watch.
Yep.
Well, all right. So the only thing really kind of left to discuss right now in terms of what's going to happen this weekend is the playoff picture and what we have coming up at our watch party. So let's take a look at the playoff picture getting started. You've got a lot of that kind of stuff. Once you get past Dallas with the number 1 seed overall, it's a little muddy. So clear it up.
Okay, so at the number 1, obviously you've got Dallas. So the road to the Super Bowl goes through Arlington. At number 2, you've got a couple of teams vying for that number 2 seed. Atlanta is in the driver's seat. They win, they're in, they get the first round bye. On the other side of it, Seattle can still get there if they win and Atlanta loses. Right. So Seattle needs some help to get in. At the number 4, you're going to have the winner of the NFC North, whether that's Green Bay or Detroit. The loser of that goes to 6. At 5, you got New York Giants. They're locked in there, so no matter what happens, win or lose against Washington, they're going to stay at number 5. Washington can still get in if they beat New York. And then the only other team that's mathematically possible for it is going to be Tampa Bay at the number 6, but there's so many different crazy scenarios that have to happen. They're out.
Right, but if Detroit loses to the Packers and the Giants beat Washington is out and the Lions slip into 6.
Right.
As we look forward to the Super Bowl run, we are going to have our watch party this weekend out at Sam's Sports Grill at Blue Turtle Bay in Old Hickory. We encourage y'all to come out and have a great time with us. Just celebrate our NFC East championship.
That's right.
have a good time with a bunch of Cowboy fans. Just have a wonderful time out there. But we are going to be doing something very special. So if you sign up for the 2017 premium membership at this watch party, we're going to have a photographer there, and she's going to be taking your picture. This next year's membership card is going to be your own football card with your picture on it and the whole bit.
Awesome.
Going to have a lanyard. You're going to wear that to the watch parties. So that's going to be kind of cool. Neat to have your own football card, Cowboys themed and everything. So it'll be kind of neat. Yep. But also we have a very special giveaway for the members this week. You're going to want to get some of these. You're going to want to get your hands on it. And I think what you're going to see when it's over and you get these, a lot of activity is going to be taking place. So it's going to be pretty cool. I encourage you to come out. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to come out to find out. But when you find out, if you weren't there, you're really going to be upset that you didn't make it. So, and as always, check out our sponsors, GameDaySportsTours.com. Of course, Sam's Sports Grill. We have all of our watch parties, awesome food. And the Ultimate Sports Fan in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. If you didn't get what you wanted for Christmas, you got to get out there and check them out. They have a lot of stuff out there, Cowboy stuff, but everything else, Preds and Vols and all kinds of stuff. So go out there and check them out. Until next week, we'll see you then, and go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.
Love them Dallas Cowboys.
Put 'em up, put 'em